All right. Chatting a little Utah football and life and whatnot with Utah tight ends coach Freddie Whittingham. How are you, by the way?
Doing good. Enjoying this June period. It's kind of crazy, but, we got a lot going on, but loving it.
Great. All right, we're going to start non-football stuff first because, you've been on the staff. People know you. They see you around, but go in depth a little bit. What was it like growing up in the Whittingham household?
Okay, that's an interesting question because I don't know if I delve into our deep, dark family secrets. No, they're not dark, but it definitely was centered on football.
Yeah,
no doubt. When I was born, my dad was playing in the NFL. He retired when I was like 5, so I don't have a lot of personal memories about that, but Kyle and Carrie do. He went into coaching right away. Coached at Alhambra High School. And funny story is my aunt used to own the Wiener Schnitzel down in Provo, and Lavelle would go over there for a chili dog and a Coke every day. And she would tell him about her nephew down in Southern California that had just retired from the NFL and was coaching high school. And sure enough, Lavelle went and visited him on a recruiting visit and hired him to be the linebacker coach. So growing up down there in Provo, I used to walk from elementary school almost every single day to the facility, and if it was spring practice or during the season, I'd be out there for practice, go eat training table with my dad, go run around the Smith Field house for a couple hours till my dad would take us home when he was ready to leave. And I think it was just to get us out of my mom's hair. 4 boys and a girl was a lot. So I grew up around it, and then he moved on to the Rams, got a mid-high school move, left Provo High School, went to El Medina High School down in Orange. And before I left, I saw Lavelle. We went to the same, Mormon church stake center, and he said, okay, go down there for 2 years and then come on back and play for us. So it was always something from day one that was, a big, the overwhelming theme of the family was football.
How competitive were you guys? Because there's a gap. Obviously, there's a gap between the brothers, different age ranges. But how competitive were you guys in that household?
Well, I think that pretty competitive. There was, like you said, there's 3 years between Kyle and Carrie, then another 3 years between Carrie and me, and then Brady was a little bit like 4 years younger than me. So I think that there may be a reason that Kyle and Carrie were linebackers and I became a running back because I think they needed somebody to tackle, a tackling dummy to beat up on. I remember Kyle pitting me against Carrie, and I think it toughened me up, from a young age. We have some home videos of me just getting hammered, in tackling drills in the backyard and stuff like that. So I think it may have, helped with my physical and mental toughness to grow up like that. So for sure.
All right, so obviously you grew up in a coaching household with your dad, Fred, namesake. Kyle jumps into coaching after he's done, but you didn't go to coaching right immediately. You were kind of in the real world, the business world. You're in sales and marketing and, McGraw-Hill, Simon & Schuster and all that stuff. What made you, after all that time away from football, decide you wanted to get back into it?
Yeah, so, I made the decision after I was done playing, had a season with the Rams on the practice squad, a season in the World League when it was in its inaugural season, had decided that I'd probably taken football as far as my natural ability could carry me. And so I actually did talk to my dad. I talked to Kyle, who was coaching at Idaho State. I talked to Carrie, who was a graduate assistant down at BYU. And all 3 of them were like, don't go into coaching, too much time away from the family, not enough job stability, the pay isn't great, go use your mind to do something else. So I kind of embraced that and took a job with a publishing company. It was Simon & Schuster first, took a promotion with them, and then I got recruited by McGraw-Hill to come work for them, a competing company, and I spent the majority of my career there. Had, a few different promotions, a few different moves, lived in New Jersey, Arizona, California. And then I just hit a point where I was thinking that, man, everything that's going on in football, I really would like to be a part of it. I'm at the midway, I guess midlife. I don't think it was a midlife crisis, but there were a lot of things going on, both on the business side, on the personal side, that just made the move feel like the right thing to do. And as timing would have it, Kyle had an opening for the former guy was director of campus recruiting. And I said, I would like a little different title if I come work. I want to be director of player personnel. And it was mostly recruiting operations, almost exclusively recruiting operations. So everything we did structurally with recruiting areas, how we structured our recruiting events on campus, official visits, how we evaluated players, how we tracked players, how we communicated with prospects, all that stuff. So that was my first 4 years here. But I had told Coach Witt that I don't want to be in operations. I would love to get on the field. And when Coach Pease retired, he had been coaching the D-line. Coach Powell was coaching the tight ends at that time. It was a natural move for Coach Powell to move over and coach the D-ends, which opened up the tight end spot. And then I interviewed with Coach Roderick and Coach Harding, who were co-OCs at the time, got offered the job, and now 10 years later, still doing it.
So what's the experience been like? Not only coaching back on the field again, but coaching with your brother.
It's been great. I mean, it was a leap of faith for sure to make a midlife career move like that. But it's gone as good as I possibly could have thought. I mean, I've loved being here at Utah. Thought at times maybe it would be nice to branch out, somewhere else. But I mean, we've had a great run of success. It's such a great place. Been able to have 2 of my kids come up and attend the University of Utah, graduate from the University of Utah. So, I love it here, and it's been a phenomenal experience thus far for me. When Coach Ludwig came in, we moved to that really tight end, centric offense. That's been a ton of fun to be able to, have the guys be so productive as playmakers, in the offense. And so I'm eager and looking forward to, this next stage with Coach Beck coming in as offensive coordinator and changing the offense up a little bit. So fired up for this season. We got a little, we got to redeem ourselves, I think, a little bit from last year.
How has the new offense and Jason Beck, what he's brought in, impacted your room? Because at least what we saw in spring, it doesn't look like there's as many tight ends on the field as there used to be under the Andy Ludwig offense.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting room right now. I mean, I've got the traditional tight end, Dallin Bentley. He could play, the tight end spot every single down. Then I've got some flex Y type tight ends. They're going to be flexed out more, big bodies, to be primarily used in the throw game and in perimeter blocking. And then there's the Swiss Army knife Hunter. Hunter Andrews is going to be probably all over the field. So it's more of a kind of a hybrid room right now. But that's what makes it fun and exciting, is putting those guys in the spots that give them the best chance to do what they do best and be successful at it. So it's been great to learn this new offense. I love, so many aspects about it. I think, the quarterback that transferred in, Devin, really high on him. And I think it's going to be fun to see how we can put some points on the board this season.
Who are you leaning on for leadership? Because you had Keithy for so long,
and
Kincaid, and you had a number of guys that had been around. You mentioned that Dallin's been around a bit. Now, he hasn't played a prominent role, but who are you leaning on in that room right now for leadership?
Yeah, I would say right now it is Dallin. He's the guy that has experience and he leads by example very well. I really feel we're going to have a breakout season with Dallin. And then I would say next up, Otto Tia has kind of become that hybrid tight end, senior, a lot of great experience at Utah State, incredible attitude, good work ethic. So he's also a guy in that room that can kind of set the tone. And then, Hunter really would be the third one that really, practice habits, outstanding, work habits off the field, outstanding, smart football intellect. So those guys kind of lead the way for the younger guys in the room.
Hunter's had an interesting journey. You guys recruited him out of high school as a linebacker. He was a really good linebacker out of Texas.
Well, he was a running back in high school.
Running back too,
yeah.
but I think, and then he got moved to running back, right?
Yeah.
He came and now he's in the tight end room. So how is he handling the kind of the moving around a bit?
Yeah. Well, Hunter tells me, and I'm not sure if he's just telling me this because I'm his coach now, but he said he's having the most fun he's had playing at Utah so far. And, he had a great spring.
Yeah.
We used him in a variety of different ways. He was very productive. And not just when he's touching the ball, but, when he's blocking, and everything that he does, he's just a good football player. And so having Hunter, I think, really gives us an element where we can line him up in so many different places and try to get the ball in his hands with his speed and his physicality, that he's been a great addition to what we're doing offensively and the tight end room.
Speaking about offensively, you mentioned this kind of in passing a second ago, but you've gotten to see Devin Dampier up close all spring long. And you've been around Utah football for a while now, and even when you weren't on staff, you're watching it because your brother's coaching and he's on staff. Can you recall Utah ever having a player like Devin at the quarterback spot with his skill set?
Not really. I have not seen that. I mean, I guess you could say when Kendall Thompson came in here, he had a little bit of that element. But, what I've seen in Devin is just a remarkable playmaker. He's got so much instinct and so much savvy. I think he's a great fit, for the RPO game that we do. And he's also such a good leader off the field. He's only been here since January, but, you should see him at these official visits. He's present at every single one. He's over at the uniform photo shoots, hooting, hollering, getting the guys excited. He's at the dinners, talking to all the various recruits and stuff like that. I've heard through the grapevine that he takes his offensive line out to dinner. I'm telling you, he's got to include, some tight ends in that. We block too. No, he's just been I'm really, really impressed with Devin and very optimistic with him, leading us at QB this fall.
What you were just talking about is very unique. You don't have one of those guys necessarily every year. Those guys kind of come along every couple of years. All those things you were just talking about kind of are reminiscent of Britton Covey when he was here. Covey was a different position, I know, but such a leader, and he was one of those guys. To always talk about him. They could walk into any position group room, and assimilate themselves. Well, that kind of sounds like Devin to me. Like if he jumped in the linebacker room, he would be fine. He could mix with those guys. That isn't always the case. Right.
And you're spot on with Devin. He relates to everybody on this team and interacts with everybody and is very much focused on, okay, where are we going together, right? What's this going to look like, all in it together. And I've just loved to see that. It's been such a bright spot of this spring and summer.
You mentioned your background, and we'll wind it down here in just a second. Fred Whittingham's with us here. We're talking about Utah football, tight ends and stuff. One of the most unique things about Utah football and the rivalry with BYU is the crossover. There is so much crossover, especially now on coaches and players and things like that. But there's a fair number of guys, especially now on the offensive staff, that have played, that are from different generations of BYU and Utah football. Does that, for you, because you've been part of that too now for a long time, add just another unique layer to this rivalry?
I think probably for the fans, for coaches, you've got a great job here at Utah. I think none of those guys have any hesitation to, want to compete with that former team,
right?
And to do the best that we can in all areas, recruiting, on the field, everything to be competitive and none of those guys were really guys that I crossed paths with there. I'm the older guy. I was there before them,
right?
But I think Markey came in shortly after me, and then Jason was a little bit later, and then Micah and Coy were all pretty recent. So it's kind of interesting because on the offense we got 4 of the 5 full-time coaches. That's the alma mater, and then on defense, it's the other way around. They're Utes. Yep.
It's fun. All right, last thing. What has you most excited about this upcoming season? You kind of hinted earlier about wanting almost a redemption of sorts from all the things that happened last year, but what has you excited about the upcoming season?
That's it exactly. Is the opportunity to really go out and do what Utah football does, right? Be competitive, be physical, win football games, and get ourselves on that track of being, in the Pac-12, we're one of the most winning programs in that conference. And, the first year in the Big 12, things didn't go as we planned, for a lot of different reasons. But the bottom line is when you come out 5-7, you feel like you've got a lot of motivation, to flip that script and have a successful season. So that's what motivates me the most, is to have this version of the Utes, get on the map and be, competitive nationally, in the college football season.
Utah tight ends coach Freddie Whittingham. Thanks, Freddie.
Thank you. See you around.